Hey everybody, welcome to the Swedenborg in Life podcast. Today, my name is Chris Childs. Today and every day, I'm joined by Chelsea Odner. Hey Chelsea.
Hey everybody.
And Dr. Jonathan Rose.
Hey Curtis.
Today we're going to be going through mind-blowing facts about angels. Their presence with us, their impact on us, how they relate to each other in the afterlife. Really fascinating stuff. And this is all pulled from this book, which is called Swedenborg Perpetual Calendar. This is available from the not-for-profit Swedenborg Foundation. It's excerpts of Swedenborg's accounts of all things spiritual, super high-quality spiritual info. And every day, you're like, oh, today's August 13th. There's a quote for you in there. You can keep reading them as you go. So we're going to jump around in this thing and give ourselves a window into the world of the angels. So right away, I wanted to start with, this is from the October 9th. On page 120, and it has to do with the combat between good and evil.
Okay.
Let's start out intense here. Trial brings with it doubt concerning the Lord's presence and mercy and concerning salvation. The evil spirits then present with us, who bring on the crisis, inspire strong negativity. Good spirits and angels, however, on behalf of the Lord, use every method they can to do away with this doubt, keep hope always alive in us, and eventually reinforce a positive outlook. You ever felt that? Kind of the struggle?
Yeah. Feels very familiar.
So
Yes.
the common human experience of you've got this negativity coming into you, this doubt and despair, and then there's also something in you that's like, hey, it's going to be all right. Look on the bright side. That's actually the clash of, according to Swedenborg, the clash of angels and evil spirits with you.
And it feels intensely personal when it's going on. You know, it's the sort of thing that dark night of the soul, or you feel like you're at your most private and in your self, in your heart of hearts, and suffering in there. And yet Swedenborg says that this is in the spiritual world, this is quite a public clash that's going, there's more than just you involved in this.
Right. That's what I think is so interesting is he's saying that about evil spirits are doing this and angels are doing that, but we're not experiencing that. We're not conscious of the presence of evil spirits or angels, or only we are through our sense of those thoughts that we're having, that it all feels like us all the time. It happens in the first person, but You'll be having a ton of negative thoughts. And then you also think, oh, wait, but maybe this, or something. And it brings a little bit of hope, like you said. And that is actually, if you pulled that little thread, that actually connects to all of these angels in the spiritual world.
Okay, because in case someone's not familiar, Swedenborg's model of consciousness, which is that your consciousness is spiritual, and that means you have a spirit that's present somewhere in the spiritual world. And so you are being influenced by that world. That was, I think, when he had his spiritual awakening, he still had his regular life. He just understood the underlying reasons why his mind was the way it was and why everyone's mind is the way it is. So it's a great point. Most people will never have a sense of, oh, there's angels around me, there's evil spirits around me, but you feel the impact of it in your life. You feel like, oh, that like gives you an explanation. I guess it's kind of like, my knee really hurts and I don't understand why. And then some doctor says, well, that's because there's these like some kind of bursitis or these little bacteria are in there. You understand the reason why. You just have this like single dull sense, or like my throat hurts. It turns out, oh, there's this Streptococcus aureus is in there, and what we're gonna do is there's this whole internal battle between your like macrophages and T cells and them, but you just feel it as like, ooh. So it is with, but particularly here, doubt concerning the Lord's presence and mercy and concerning salvation. Those are religious sounding words that you kind of just put into the like religion category of your brain, and you just sort of fly over them. But the Lord's presence is like, are you here? Is anyone here with me? Is God here?
Yeah.
And mercy, Swedenborg said, mercy is God reaching out to us in distress. So that is like, does anyone see I'm going through this? Does anybody care? Is God going to help me out of this? Or even if you believe in God, is he just somewhere like up in the machine like those are very human things to care about.
Yeah, and I think the love, mercy to me, I just think synonymous with love. So often that like, I'm alone and I'm unlovable. Like that's a very common human experience. And we don't necessarily think that as religious. And yet I think those are the parallels Swedenborg's making here of like, that despair and lack of mercy is like, oh, I'm so unlovable in whatever state I'm in and I'm completely alone. Nobody's
That's pretty harsh.
Yeah.
That's pretty harsh.
Yeah.
And another angle that occurred to me for somebody who might not be thinking of this in religious terms is just sort of like, is life good? Like, are good things happening? Because it seems like there's only bad things happening.
Right.
That kind of thing. So it might translate into goodness in their mind.
Yeah.
I feel like the reason I want to include this number is I think that what Swedenborg gives you is a fusing of what you would think is religious and non-religious in the mind. And I think that, yes, there's an experience of like right and wrong, and I wanted to push my sister and take the toy back, but I'm not supposed to. There's that, sure. But then, as you're saying, the experience of am I lovable? Am I worthwhile human being? Also the fear of like, how's this thing going to turn out for me?
Yeah.
Is this bad? Those are these huge categories of experience that you don't quite know. Like, how do you interface with religion on that? How does that interface with the presence or absence of God? But here you have, it's like, no, that hell is trying to get you to be afraid and in despair.
Yeah.
And heaven is, by whatever means, on behalf of God, trying to give you this positive outlook. And I've been fascinated lately just looking at the stories of Jesus and how often he's like, well, don't be afraid. And just like even when they wake him up in the boat and they're like, dude, these waves. And he's like, just calm down. Would you just calm down? And I'll take care of this. That is a part of the clash between the positive and negative. And it brings it into like all the techniques and tips and things you learn to try to have a better mental health. Yeah. It's all just like, okay, well, you know what? What you're doing right now is called catastrophizing. And that is an unrealistically negative point of view. So what we're trying to do is give you these tools that pull you back into a more positive and hopeful point of view. It's like, oh, that is on this continuum. Like suddenly the two can talk to each other.
Yeah, and I think salvation is a particularly charged religious term. Are you saved or not saved? Like it becomes this sort of abstract intellectual thing. But I'm hearing you say that experience, to me, salvation can be, is this ever going to change? When you're stuck in a negative state, it feels like life is never going to get better. There's sort of no hope for tomorrow. But those states do inevitably change because there is this divine providence that's governing and guiding all of our changes of state. And so salvation is this realization, oh, it is going to shift. There is inevitably going to be a shift here, and I'm going to feel differently. And just that hope, just that sense of there is some way that this is going to be different, or the idea of giving yourself second chances, just this, not that you're totally condemned, that's the other side of it. And so similarly, that brings salvation from this very kind of lofty Christian idea to when you're stuck and feeling really bad in a particular state of mind.
Yeah. Well, I know, Jonathan, someday I'll let you get a word in edgewise here. I know you're very well learned and everything. I'll just do one response to Chelsea, then I want to hear your thoughts on this. But it sort of feels like Swedenborg will talk about divine providence. Is it over everything just in general, or is it over the details as well? And here we're talking about the details of the mind. And that elsewhere Swedenborg says all unrest is from evil and falsity. So whatever misery I'm in this current state, there's some evil and falsity, which is, Swedenborg just calls all evil and falsity together. He referred to that as hell. So to pull me out of that state, that's like a little salvation. So salvation just means this is the Lord who loves you, saving you from hell, saving you from hell. So there's all these, and even here he talks about, well, there's hell is trying to make you feel despair. And so angels on behalf of the Lord are trying to make it not. They're trying to make you feel hopeful and confirm you in this positive outlook. So the salvation means I'm taking you out of the misery of hell and into the safety and happiness of heaven. And that happens in all these little ways, all these times. I don't know. It just, to me, it's like that's when Swedenborg first came alive to me. I was like, oh, this is got this cool theological side to it, and is telling you about these big truths about God, but it applies to how you're feeling today, and that's not a separate,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm interested in how they don't, to my mind, the positive and the negative messages don't come in at the same second. Like, it'll seem in my experience that you'll get a whole slew of negative, whatever, it'll sort of be dominant for a while. And then when you sort of get exhausted with all that, then a quiet little, quite a different sort of feeling of the thought. Quiet little, well, maybe not, or some little thing. But so it's a little asynchronous. And I'm also thinking about how Swedenborg says that after you go through those times, there's something he calls consolation, which is where there's just a sense of relief that you got out. Mm-hmm. And that shows that you don't enjoy being in that storm of evil or whatever, like you're relieved to get out of there.
Yeah. I keep thinking, you mentioned in the beginning of kind of making an analogy between our white blood cells or, bacteria in our bodies as sort of a symbol for evil spirits. And that suggests that they're in us. And something Swedenborg says is, I forget how the wording exactly is in this quote, but the way that evil spirits are influencing us, but they're not in us necessarily.
Right.
There's this influence and spiritual association we have. And just the thought, and I don't know anything about this, but like quantum entanglement, I think is that whole thing where it's like something's happening over here and it's connected to something over here, so you do something over here and it affects the thing over here. See,
that's
a double slit or something.
Yeah,
Schrodinger's cat or something. Yeah.
Anyway, if that idea is even helpful, I feel like it kind of helps with the way that there can be something in us that is resonant with this influence of evil spirits without sort of freaking people out that like there's evil spirits crawling around your insides right now all the time.
You don't want to do that. And it's funny that you can get that way even about germs, that there's such a thing as germs, right? And whether they're in you or not, because they're not like, they're outside your cells like that, but like you can, sure, they're in the world, but you can become a germaphobe or a hypochondriac to the point where you're consumed by the worry about something you don't need to be consumed about. So that's one side of it. But then also, yes, it's not like Swedenborg says there's not like demonic possession where they're in you, but there are certain things they resonate with you. And I think he says it's the like they connect by the false ideas you have.
Yes.
And then they can connect by evil desires. So
right.
So, because there's another quote I was looking at recently where he says that people who are strongly confirmed in truths have more immunity to hell, because hell connects with false ideas in you. Yeah, so there's all kinds of false ideas that God doesn't exist, that God's not here, that I'm not lovable. Well, that's a falsity.
Life is random.
Life is random. Life is not going well. None of those, because so what is it to be lovable? God is love itself and has chosen to create each person for the express purpose of putting them into heaven, which is through the act of loving. So those are all falsities. And to the extent we believe those, that's where hell has an in. But there's other places where you don't have falsities, that you're not worried about things that other people are deathly afraid of. So each person has like different strong points and weak points in their mind.
Right. And angels, he says, flow into the ideas that we have in our minds, and I think give us the good feelings, right? Like it helps us to build up this storehouse of truth, and then obviously our actions in loving ways toward ourselves and others, then that gives more and more of this plane for the influence of angels to have even more impact on the outermost levels of us. So
that's a great point.
And biblically, there's this image of your mind being like a walled city, and those enemies are at the gate, but they're not allowed in. So they're just sort of shouting through the gate. So you can hear them.
Right.
They're right there. They're
the
not
vibration
actually. They're
is
not
in there.
actually in your city. They're just making noise at the gate.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that what you're saying about that angels need a plane as well. It's the same thing. Like angels interact
Yes.
with the truths in your mind.
Yeah.
That's
right.
why you would bother to we're going to learn some
Yeah.
facts about angels.
Let me read a quote today.
Yeah, because they work in those ideas, and that's how you feel. It's like, oh, I've got all these negative falsities, like these beliefs about what's going to happen or something, that those will come alive when this negative energy pours into them. But then you've got these positive things you try to remember, and those will pop up. Same thing if we're reading the Bible. I'll often just okay, well, I'm reading it right now. Who knows what it means, but later some little phrase from it will pop up that's comforting at the time.
Yeah.
And it's
yeah.
oh, there we go. That is like a container into which angels can operate on behalf of God.
Songs seem to be really impactful too. I think
yeah.
angels will just get you to start singing a song that you maybe weren't thinking of, and then you realize, wait, the lyrics are really applicable to my life right now.
Right,
Like it's just like spot on. And yet songs have this like good quality, like they are comforting inherently in themselves. I want to note something. You mentioned the enemies at the gate, and I know there's other quotes we want to read, but in one story, these enemies that come, I guess, to the Israelites or something like that, they specifically talk in their language, not in their own language. They threaten them with
in
Israelite,
Hebrew, right? Yes,
in their language.
Right. That's right.
And it terrifies them. And I just have always found that to be really
that's good.
a useful hallmark for the influence of evil spirits. It's like, they're going to talk in your language. They know how to hit your buttons. They're going to make you feel really scared about what you already, feel scared about. So they talk in your language.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
That's so true. And you think
Sennacherib
they must know what
is the story.
these thoughts must know what they're talking about because they're pressing my buttons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
right. It's
man,
true. or
I had to
something.
do this cybersecurity training
Yes.
where the nature of evil is the same everywhere. So the people who are trying to scam you or phish you, they do that too. They learn what they'll imitate people they'll imitate like the kind of processes you're supposed to do, the contracts you have, and it's all to be like, oh, this is legit. They'll put the same signature in there. Okay, we got to get to the next one, but that's okay.
That's awesome.
Next one is September 15th, page 104.
We have spirits and angels around us. Our inner self lives among them, and the Lord governs us through them. As to our inner levels, or as to our thoughts and feelings, we each exist in community with these beings, even though we are unaware of it. Everything we think and will comes from there, so much so that if the communities of spirits and angels in which we exist were taken away from us, we would instantly lose all thought and will. More than that, we would instantly fall down completely dead.
Not just mostly dead, like in The Princess Bride.
No,
Not
not
mostly dead. All the
Well,
way.
I thought that was worth including because that's significant that's how you're alive. It's also proof positive that you've got angels around you because you're not dead. So,
yeah, and so it's not just like intrusive thoughts. It's not just where something sort of barges in. You think, where is that coming from?
Right.
It's everything you want, everything you think is mediated. And as we've talked about before on the show, that was the big surprise to Swedenborg.
Yes.
Yeah. To learn that that these other beings, these angels and demons, were present in his thinking and feeling. What he thinks is his own, I'm deciding to go to so-and-so today. I think I'll wait to do the other thing. They're in that too. It's not just a little random thing that flows in.
And with what we were just talking about, I like how he's saying that the spirits and angels are around us, and our inner self, so this inner level of our minds, lives among them. So again, that's the same, like they're not necessarily in us. There's something that's you, but you're very much connected because the way spiritual things work, you have this connection through your thoughts and feelings with the beings around you. And then that the Lord governs us through them. So what does that mean? I thought the Lord just governed us, but the Lord governs us through angels and spirits? I don't know.
So I think that it's a classic case of Swedenborg saying something that sounds weird, but actually is a little less weird than you think. So if we really have a spirit that lives in the spiritual world. That's not that weird. A lot of people will say that. But like right now, you are both influencing me. The kinds of things that I'm thinking is changing whenever you say something. And even just like looking at you and saying like, you're changing the way I think. I have a different sphere here than I had before I came in and started doing this. So I think it's like you're around spirits and angels in the afterlife, even if your spirit there is in a less directly conscious state than here. You're influenced by the crowd you hang out with. The governing through spirits and angels just makes me think of like, well, yeah, I mean, here in this world, I've been governed through my parents. I've been governed through teachers. I've been governed through coworkers. That there's a lot of, well, everybody, like going back to our previous discussion about you're in this period where you're really down and out and you don't know, and then somebody comes and says the thing that you needed to hear, or you call someone on the phone. Something I've noticed remarkably consistently is when I am really down, people communicating with people, it works for some reason. Like they say the right thing, or it does something. So to me, that's the Lord governing me through that. And often when you're really in a spiral, can't govern you through your own thoughts and feelings. It's why you're governed through this stuff outside of you.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And like Swedenborg does say, we each have a direct connection to the divine through our inner self. And then we have a mediated connection through this inflow from spirits and angels. And so if everybody has that direct connection, then the divine is influencing everybody. And so then that naturally works together, using us and using others to all support each other. And I just love that too, that Swedenborg is very clear that it's not just this individualistic salvation through your connection to the divine. We do actually support each other and need each other. And like you say, like when you're down, you can call somebody else. That is a conduit for this support, like that, how important that is. So
let's go to the next one. All right. So this is page 103, September 12th. Oh, it's right close to where we are, man.
Okay. Not only does the whole of heaven in general breathe like one person, but individual communities that are in contact with each other breathe together, as do any angels and spirits who are in contact with each other.
So we're dropping in the middle of something that would spit take. Like, what? Not only does heaven, so what does it mean that heaven in general breathes like one person?
It's very interesting to think of. I know they've studied, haven't they done functional MRIs or something on people interacting socially?
Yes.
And the effect of people's brain waves on each other, that they can even...
Entrainment.
Yes, if they even take them separately and look at each person, they can tell who they were talking to because they got in sync with that other person's brain waves or rhythm, something like that. And you don't even realize it's happening. And I've also thought of the phenomenon, which fascinates me, where you get all these people come in to hear a concert, let's say, or watch a play. And there's a hubbub, and there's all diverse people, and they're all talking, whatever, and they're all strangers to each other. And then as the show unfolds, you'll get a moment where you could hear a pin drop. Like everybody holds their breath at the same second, and you're out, like, who controls that? But all of a sudden, everybody's having the same experience. Everybody's going, they all just take their breath.
Right. It's really interesting what you're saying about entrainment and stuff. Also is what people now understand around nervous system regulation and co-regulation, that we, with raising kids, if a kid is having a meltdown, you bring them in close contact with your body, and if you're calm, they will start calming down. And that's this co-regulation. And so I hear like Swedenborg saying that, like heaven is all co-regulated with each other and they're breathing together, but he observed this in the 1700s.
Yeah.
And like, but just to your point that we all, and the nervous system, it is that has this connection to our breath, to our respiration. And so that is just how we are together. as a somatic, body worker person, when Swedenborg starts talking about breathing, I'm like, all right, like that's so great, so cool.
Well, and if you're not familiar, you may hear us sort of flip-flopping between talking about heaven and talking about human anatomy,
Right.
like it's nothing. And that is because one of Swedenborg's, I think, most novel insights was that when he saw the spiritual world and how it worked, he said all of heaven is structured the same way a human body is. That I guess the body of Christ, that there is. One time I was giving a talk and there was this person who was like, "What's your talk about?" And I was like, "Oh, it's like," I thought it was this weird Swedenborg concept I was telling her, that like, "Oh, we're all like in heaven, everyone can work together like one." She's like, "Oh yeah, the body of Christ." Yes. And she wasn't even a Christian, but so
That's great.
So very literally, we are like a microcosm, like a mini version of it. So the truths that we discover through all these awesome terms you guys are using, neuroregulation stuff, that is actually giving you insight into how heaven works, because it does it on this giant scale. So everyone in heaven is neuroregulated because they all, in all their different ways, really want to be useful.
Yeah.
And enjoy that, and their primary motivation in life is like the salvation of the human race. So like everybody coming into this deep, profound state of happiness, which is called heaven, because they get that's what God wants. So they're in sync with God, and that puts them all in sync with each other. So there's this common breathing. Dang.
Yeah.
So cool.
And like breathing versus holding your breath. So often it's like, when we just let ourselves breathe, or you breathe in meditation, that naturally calms your mind. We start feeling stressed, we hold our breath. Or if we hold our breath, we start to feel stressed. And so it's cool to think heaven's always breathing, and you can like sync up with heaven's respiration.
Or breathing very shallowly, just like our sort of,
Right.
just gasping up at the top of your lungs
Versus
instead
like
of a
diaphragmatic,
deep belly breathe.
yeah.
Wouldn't Swedenborg talk about, because he had this direct sort of awareness of afterlife, that he would sync his breathing with angelic communities and his heartbeat too.
Yeah.
Or when he was, I don't know how voluntary it was, but when he was connecting with them, it would have that
happen.
impact.
It would, it would sync up.
What we got in these facts about angels is like, we're putting together the psychology and the religion, and here we're putting together the physiology and religion. In this next one, let's talk about like mindfulness and religion, because we're going to talk about living in the present moment and how that relates to angels. So this is page 146, December 19th. Angels have in their present both past and future. For this reason, they do not worry about events that are yet to come. They never think about death, but only about life. Thus, for them, every present moment contains the Lord's eternity and infinity.
That's a lot.
Well, I don't know what angels have in their present both past and future. What are you talking about? What does that mean?
I know.
There's other passages where Swedenborg talks about how much angels live in the moment. And this is so interesting because back in the 60s, wasn't it, this,
Very much,
Ram Dass or whoever, be here now, and that kind of thing, that this idea came in of being in the moment. And I think 12-step groups also have some idea of you get into a lot of trouble if you're overly obsessed either with things that happened in the past, or you're freaking out about the future or something. It's, there's some sort of sanctuary in the present moment. And yet he'll say that angels have in their present moment this exquisite knowledge of the past and this great ability to see the future. And yet to them, it's not like leaving the present moment and going up and freaking out. Because one of the freak out state is you're not even really aware of yourself in the moment terribly, right?
Yes,
like you're so up somewhere else that you're not even noticing that you just vacuumed up the dog or something.
I found through my own practice of, like you said, mindfulness and meditation, and these concepts are like being here now. That whole idea of like being in the present moment is safety. Like so much we feel through trauma and everything, we kind of leave our bodies, and then it like puts us up in our head, so to speak, or we're fixated on the future, or we're fixated on the past. But that actually, when you start to be able to bring yourself down into your body, which means just being present to what is happening right now. Like, how is it feeling in your feet, in your leg? Like, sensation in the present moment actually brings this regulation, like we were talking about. That's how they use the technique of grounding, which is really just using your five senses in the present moment to come into a state of calm. And
I can't think of a meditation I've ever heard that doesn't start that way. Like they all,
right.
they
That's
all
right.
start that way. Like get in touch with your breathing, feel your body,
But that's
like,
amazing that that's what's real, that what's real and true in the present moment is safety, calm. That's the, like, it contains the Lord's eternity and infinity. Like,
Yeah.
the Lord is present in the present moment.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Everyone sit there and imagine 2 weeks from now what might go wrong. Like, so,
Now hold your breath.
yeah, hold your breath.
okay.
How to bring on a panic attack.
So, angels.
That's not the show we're doing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I was trying to get out of work.
Yeah.
So angels are living in the state of mind that God created us to be in. Like there is sort of, everyone's
Yeah.
obviously free to have
In
their
the
own
zone.
their own way of approaching life. It's completely wide open. You can approach life any way you want. There is a divine recommendation of like, this is how you should be, because this is how you get to be in the kind of happiness that's called heaven.
Yeah.
And part of that is, I think, yes, less focus on past and future, more focus on present. It's interesting, that the present, actually being in the present is good for you. I was,
Like, why is that?
There was a
That's
study,
true.
they were studying people who were chronic worriers about the future, and they had them catalog, like, okay, just write down every worry you get, everywhere you get, and we'll see how many of those worries come to pass.
Okay.
And like the average was 90% of the things that they wrote down didn't happen. For some of the participants, 100% didn't happen. And the things that did happen were not like they thought they were going to be. So that's just like, even if you're not going to talk about God and all this stuff, that the mechanism of projecting into the future doesn't accomplish what you want it to accomplish. So you have all these mindfulness traditions recognizing that and finding, well, we can feel that you stay in the present, you're doing something better for yourself. Swedenborg is coming along saying that's the way angels are, which is more the way the kids are, and that you got to become like a little child to enter the kingdom of heaven. But then you have this I feel like one of the brightest moments of Jesus's teachings. I mean, they're all great, but when he's talking about the Sermon on the Mount, and he has these couple of things in a row about like, consider the lilies.
Right.
Do not worry about your life. Don't worry about your body, what you're going to put on. The birds get fed. You're going to be okay. I'm paraphrasing, but that's a teaching that's a pivotal one, because I think it's because that gives the Lord and the angels more opportunity to help you, whereas hell can operate in falsities of the future.
Yeah, that's true.
Another thing is,
that's that's what we were just talking about at the beginning. Like falsity versus truth, and like
falsity versus truth. Because another falsity is the idea that you are in control of your future.
Yeah.
Because it's actually divine providence.
Yes.
That's in control of the future. And another falsity is that you'd want life to unfold in any way other than divine providence.
And another falsity is that they know anything about your future, because they don't.
Negative thoughts.
They don't.
Right.
They don't.
Right.
If I can tell a little story, when I was studying for my PhD, there's a specific phase you go through late in the process where you study for these PhD exams, which are really brutal, 4-hour exams and then a 3-hour oral exam. And you study for an entire year by yourself. You never see another human. You're just studying for a year. And in the particular department I was in, nobody had passed for years. Nobody had passed this exam. And I had less of a background than other people. I was studying with these brilliant people. I thought, what are the odds of me ever? I was just terrified. I'm not going to pass this thing. And what I took to doing, because of these kind of concepts, was, can you point to your exam? Is it in front of you right now?
Right.
No, I'm actually fixing breakfast. And I would literally take my hand and I would put, where's the exam? Well, I see the window.
Yes, right.
There's the stove.
Yes, right.
No, the exam's not here, And it was helpful to me to try to, and I did end up passing and it went well.
Yeah.
But all the sort of violin music that would play in my head, here's you at your exam.
Yes. Oh, man. Right. It
For a
wasn't what's
year,
real.
with no other input from other people, So that's intense, but it went really well. And just being focused it really helped me get more focused in the present moment.
And I think that if you had failed that exam, the promise of providence is that you would be here now, and you'd be like, and I totally failed it. But what I didn't realize, what that did was it sent me on this path over here.
Exactly.
And it turns out I never would have something that was so much better than something.
Right.
And we see that a little bit in our lives. But Swedenborg is saying that, there's this whole afterlife, the whole spiritual side of life that you don't really know what's valuable or not happening in this life. That actually there's everything you look back on, you're going to be like, ooh, that turned out just great because the spiritual, it's made me into the person that I am now.
No, nobody asks up there, so did you pass that test?
Yes, yes. One of the most important kinds of intelligence angels have is to know and perceive that all life comes from the Lord, that heaven as a whole corresponds to his divine humanity, and consequently that all angels, spirits, and people correspond to heaven. It is also to know and perceive how they correspond. These are the fundamentals of the intelligence in which angels excel compared to us. It enables them to have immeasurable knowledge and perception about the heavens, and therefore about the world, since the phenomena of the world and nature are means and results flowing from heavenly phenomena as their origins. The whole material world is a theater representing the Lord's kingdom.
That was a lot.
Wow,
There's a lot in there.
a lot.
I'm like we could have stopped.
Most important kinds of intelligence.
The idea that this is fundamental to their wisdom is so astonishing. I mean,
Yeah.
So basically what you're saying is, yes, I'm in this particular hepatic duct in the liver because the liver's function is to do this purification, and I conduct this in there to make sure it gets in there, and that's the basis. And then knowing about what it is to be human, and that we're all wearing the same essential human, clothing, this body that we're wearing, and knowing where you are in that whole thing. I mean, that's just wild to think that once you've got folders for that in your head, then everything makes so much sense. Of course, that's how the liver functions, right? Of course.
Yeah, and what it says to me is how everything is connected, and somehow angels perceive that, and that because even things in this world and nature, he's saying, are flowing in from heaven, and that this heaven is the Lord's divine humanity, and that they know all life comes from the Lord. Like, it just means like we're all a part of it, and somehow there's a way that angels can even tap in to have actual knowledge and perception that's like useful to know that.
Well, when you were saying, both of you were talking about it, I was thinking about, okay, so if you were in a company that's trying to do something, let's I don't want to I was going to say Amazon, but there's probably people who are like, Amazon's bad. So you're in some company, and if you're really great employee in the company, really valuable, it's part of it is you really understand what the company's trying to do,
yes,
and what your role is, how your role affects the rest of the people. You understand that I need to do my job in this way because when I'm done with this thing, it's going to go along to these people, and what they need is for this, and this to be, and I need to get this done in this time. But I need to, before I press this button, I need to talk to these people because I know if they don't have that, the more that you know how it works and understand the mission of the whole thing, the more, the more. So he's just saying for angels, the company plan for heaven is the human form because it's God's divine humanity. So the more you get that, and the more you get what you're supposed to be doing in it, then the more you can the more helpful you are to the cause. You're like, good, I get it. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And as all of these parts of the divine human one is one way Swedenborg says it too, we are acting in response to that one's will and thoughts, and like we are all receivers of those intentions, and attention. I just think of how our bodies work. It's like, I guess they all kind of intuitively know, but it's all very responsive to each other, and there's signals happening, and there's, so that's just a wild thing to contemplate, that we're all parts. So who's the one in charge? That's divine love and wisdom.
Yeah.
Itself.
Just takes me back to when I worked for a while in a swivel chair factory, as one does.
Oh,
really did?
I really did. I worked for a
so you think you know someone?
Yes, I know.
And it took me quite a while. At first, I was just baffled, like, what is going on here? There's an assembly line over here, but those people are over here. And there's another part that's sort of walled off over here. I don't get what's going on. And then gradually over time, I realized, the metal comes in here. It's just like sheet metal comes in here. You have these huge stamps at this end, and they put the basic shapes that'll be at the heart of the swivel chair. And then it comes over here. The part that's all walled off over here is to be able to paint the product, because you don't want, everybody can't be breathing that stuff all the time, and so all the different stages of how this is made, you realize, there's a whole flow to this thing, and it does help you figure out, okay, well, if I don't do my thing right, the next piece is not going to happen right.
Yes, right. Acting, that's the other line Swedenborg says of, like, every part acts on its own initiative on behalf of,
that's right,
either the whole or the in the Trinity, he's talking about how acting on behalf of the Lord or whatever. And so that we of ourselves, as if of ourselves, get to say, I'm going to act on behalf of this larger whole. Like, I'm going to be a good piece of this puzzle.
I see the part that I play, and I want to make it better for that person that's immediately next to me in the chain. That the faster I can get that stuff to them, or whatever it is.
Yeah, well, and it's always voluntary. Like you guys have been living life. You just get to choose what you do. There's an analog to this heavenly form in what Swedenborg calls the church on earth, which is like everybody who's trying to live a heavenly life on earth. That's all just opt in all the time, and it's never like God never shows you like this is exactly what you do. You try to put your best guess together based on what you feel like is revelation or what you've learned, and you try to do it, like it's so voluntary. And that's, I guess, the heaven that is trying to be built is like a bunch of people who of their own initiative, you of your own initiative are trying to really be responsive to the divine. I mean, you don't have to do that in life, but you can get to a point if you do the regeneration thing according to Swedenborg, where that's really what you want to do, is figure out how to be responsive to the divine and then go be responsive.
Well, and just connecting it back to the last quote we had, how do you get in that flow? Again, it's being in the present moment, connecting in with what's true right here, right now. Like it is real and it's happening right now, and we get to be a part of that flow. Like those thoughts and worries and anxieties that kind of take us out of the present are the sort of antithesis of that. And so just sort of trusting that, oh yeah, you're going to get that inspiration. You're going to be open to this influence of the divine when you can be present, here and now in your body. Yep.
And when, in an earlier quote, when it talked about governing, the Lord doesn't govern like a nightmarish boss, or somebody kind of forcing people to do this and forcing people to do that. It's very much knowing how to finesse people and to get the best out of them, because now they really understand. Now they care, and look at them go. They're really producing this, and then that's helping this other people. It's inspiring this person, and that, so that it's very wise governing. It's not some human governing is not so good.
Hey, if you like this content, did you know that you could be getting more of it? Every episode, after we're done filming, the guest and I hang out for a candid discussion about everything we didn't talk about in the video. All you got to do to access it is click that join button, become a member, support the channel, and you get some of the coolest insights that have kind of bubbled up throughout the episode that we didn't have a spot for as a thank you. So click the join button, become a member, and see what you've been missing.
All right, let's go to our next one. This is our compound one, 30 and 31 of January.
Fundamentals of the spiritual path. All revelation comes either from dialogue with angels through whom the Lord speaks, or from perception. Then the next one unpacks that a little bit. People intent on goodness and therefore on truth, and especially on the goodness that comes from loving the Lord, have revelation from perception. People not intent on goodness and therefore on truth can have revelation, but not from perception, only through a living voice they hear inside them, that is, through angels from the Lord. Too bad that's such a fallback plan. Audible revelation is outward, revelation from perception is inward.
I like that. Too bad. All right, I'll take the lower tier.
All
I'll just talk to angels.
To be spoken to by an angel.
Yeah, okay. This is, so what are we going to do? How are we going to survive this one? So there's two different categories of God's talking to me somehow.
Yeah.
Yes, and the perception, it's interesting that, but you can't fake perception. I mean, to have perception, you have to be a good person. You have to be coming from the right place and have certain truths.
What
in
is
your
perception? For the viewers at home, what is perception according to Swedenborg?
Well, this is an easy topic. It is some sort of, I'm not sure, but I think of it really is related to your senses, like the sense of sight that you immediately, it's an inner
knowing.
Yeah. And it's quick. It's not like, well, this is that, so I guess this is that, and then I guess that would mean that the other thing, I guess. It's not that. It's so obvious. That would not be loving at all. You know, it's just crystal clear, I think.
I haven't thought about that. Just wanted to jump in because angels, we were talking about that angels are always helping us, in our negative states. They want to give us thoughts and send us messages. But when they do, we get to choose them or not, right? Like an angel says something and I'm like, well, do I really care? Or maybe not, So angels, it's goodness, it's truth, coming from the Lord through angels. And it's, it's a good idea, but it's kind of no different than you telling me something, or I suddenly have this thought that's like, oh, that's a really nice positive thought, but well, it really doesn't seem true. So I'm not gonna, I go on my way. But perception, I like what you're saying. It's just a knowing. It's unmediated in a way, right? You're like, oh, I know it. And I think that's perception. I think it also can be experienced as like a direct feeling, sensation of love. When you let yourself just be in the experience of love, that's like the Lord being present with you. And that's like perception.
And it suddenly strikes me that I imagine it also takes the form of, which some people really do have this counseling session or whatever, that they really see what someone else is going through. It's clear to them they have a sight of what's going, rather than trying to piece it together somehow. And interestingly, the whole topic is revelation. So how does revelation happen? So if you don't have perception, then revelation can also come through angels talking to you. The perception you have to have gone through a certain kind of spiritual development from the Lord to get to that point where those lights turn on, kind of thing. People who don't have that can absolutely hear angels, as Swedenborg talks about the fact that the donkey spoke to Balaam, gave him a message. He could hear the donkey speaking and things like that. I don't know which category that falls into, actually.
We'll have to think on that.
Yeah. But just hearing a voice or a message or something like that.
Yeah.
And I like what you were saying, Chelsea, that it is true that you're left in freedom. It might even be very urgent. Get out of there right now. You do not belong in there. And then you feel like, I don't think it's dangerous. I'm going to stay.
Right.
I think that, yeah, sometimes let's talk about perception. Swedenborg will talk about perception as you can tell when you hear something, whether it's true or not.
Bing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
It
That's
resonates or it rings. Yeah.
celestial people. He'll talk about people in the celestial heaven or the heavenly heaven, the highest heaven. They when they hear some kind of concept about God or something, they just can tell right away, yep, that's true, or not. And then also I think he frames it as you have perception when you can tell what's from heaven and what's from hell. You can tell the quality. And I feel like sometimes I have this little like proto, like not actually perception, but I'm slowly gaining more of a like, that's the kind of stuff that's hell stuff. That's just like the more you learn about, again, like hell from Swedenborg, he'll talk about the nature of it, but then you learn about like how scammers operate and you learn about how negative thoughts operate. You just kind of like, this all is just kind of junk. You get a sense of like, that's junk. And I will more like, oh, that, I think that came from heaven. Like that felt like I didn't see that coming, and the impact it had was uplifting. So it's like you sort of build up this sense of like, you know, who you don't know if yours is accurate, but I think we do throughout life build a better and better kind of compass of what's valuable to act on and believe and love, and what's valuable to just kind of let slide through your mind to the other side.
Yeah, and this thing that the people who have revelation from perception are intent on goodness and therefore on truth. So there is that spiritual development piece, but it's so much a matter of intention that I think that's interesting. If you just have this intention, somehow you're on this path toward having revelation from perception. And with what you're saying, Curtis, you know how tuning forks work? Like if you have, it's a certain object or it has a certain shape to it, so that when you ring a bell that's a certain frequency, the other one just starts ringing that same frequency because it has, the resonance. So again, this like tuning fork thing, when you have this intention on goodness, you start opening yourself to receive love, to know what love is inside of you. When you have that feeling, then when something else comes around you, it's a tuning fork. Like you're going to know, is that the love frequency or is that like the not love frequency? And then that's that perception of like, is this from heaven or not? So I feel like we become these tuning forks for what is love, what's goodness, and then that creates that experience of perception.
I think that's part of what. So on this show, we'll like we're reading Swedenborg all the time, and you get a lot of resonance. People will say, "Oh, this like I'm just encountering Swedenborg, but this is what I've always believed," or something, or I can tell that this is. So people have a resonance with it, which is part of why we want to keep doing it.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Yeah.
And we have zero control over that. I mean, we just talk, things resonate with us. It's so great when people go, I've been thinking that for ages, or I've always suspected that maybe it was like that.
That's got to be how it is or something.
Right.
All right, let's go to the next one. This is July 12th, page 78. The angels of the deepest heaven correspond to that activity of our body that is governed by the heart and cerebellum. What's the cerebrum and the cerebellum? Which is the cerebellum the like brainstem?
Yes, it's subconscious, right? So it's what keeps you breathing at night when you're not. You can consciously take over your breathing. Yeah, but it runs your heartbeat, which most people don't. I mean, there are a few swamis or somebody who can control their heartbeat. Most people can't.
Yes,
they're really connected to the angels of the deepest heaven.
Yeah, that's right. And so they're the ones that sort of run things when you're asleep, or the autonomic. Yeah, nervous system. Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, your cerebellum also controls like your movement, motor thing, like the kind of knowing something.
Like riding a bike.
Yeah, exactly.
Like once it's second nature.
That's a big part. I'm like calling way back to early anatomy and physiology days. So check Wikipedia, everybody.
There's some degenerative disorder. It might even be like Parkinson's, where what happens is your normal movements that would normally be cerebellum stay stuck in cerebrum. So it's like you have to concentrate hard on doing.
Wow.
It would be exhausting.
So like you don't get the autopilot of like walking or something. So that's why it becomes hard. Don't quote me on that. But
what
yeah.
I can quote, sort of, is Swedenborg saying that he's always talking about heaven having the celestial and the spiritual, or like the heaven, like will side, understanding side, and he maps that on the brain in two ways, right? It's that you have the cerebrum and the cerebellum. So the cerebrum is more like the intellect, understanding. The cerebellum is the will side. This like, but then he also divides it half, right half, left half. So your right brain is the will side, and the left side is the intellect. Is it both or is it not both? I don't.
Yeah.
Oh, he does.
No, I
Yeah.
think it is. Yeah.
Or I mean, but does the cerebellum have a right and a left? I don't know.
Oh,
I don't.
nobody knows that. Science doesn't know that. Chat GPT doesn't know that.
No. I don't think
Anyway,
anybody knows.
I'm really curious about that.
But as you
that-
say,
yeah.
like that ancient brain, isn't it?
Yeah.
The things that are really deep, they're not something you sort of have to hack your way through some thought to get to. It's just kind of primal survival type of
Yeah.
stuff. They care for you. It's beautiful to think of angels who just sort of take care of that for us. And I would say having been in a few near car accidents where all of a sudden then time slows and then you just pull the exact amount and you miss by a half an inch and you know something takes over, right?
Right.
Something kicks in and just so it's happening too fast for you to think I don't know
Right.
how to handle this situation. It's like, okay, let's shut off that part. That part's not going to help us right now.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
can be conscious, but we'll just take you through it. We'll take over for a second.
I've had that a bunch, and it's fun to sort of notice when it happens where my body, so whatever senses those are, it notices something, and then I cognitively notice what was going on. I respond.
Yes.
My kids are always trying to surprise me, jump out around the corner and freak me out. And
Terrible.
I'm walking up the stairs.
Shouldn't have to
I
live like
notice, I see my daughter there walking towards me, and I'm just completely aware that she's there. And then she screams and I go, ah, because it scares me. But I knew
She's
I
right
had
there,
the perception
right.
that
Yes. Yeah.
but still my cognition catches up and it says, oh no, I'm afraid. Like it's a step behind. I don't know.
It reminds me of the story of the handwriting on the wall, where there was handwriting on the wall, and the king can't figure out what the writing means, and yet his hips become dislocated, like he's just shaking violently.
Oh yeah.
So his body seems to know, oh, we are in deep trouble, and his mind is going, I don't get it. It says Wade divided what something. I'm trying to work it out.
Yeah. That does feel like the last quote we just had about the perception. Like
Exactly.
if your heart and
Right.
cerebellum, they're just living in perception all the time,
Right.
right? And then
And so they know viscerally, like your body
what's
feels
going
different.
on.
Yeah,
yes.
that's right.
Because I was going to ask because Swedenborg, he doesn't just leave us with being, oh yeah, angels of the deepest heaven. Who are they? Who he says what the angels of the deepest heaven are. I'm wondering if you guys have the recall for that right now.
Yeah. Oh well, there's a whole level that Curtis referred to, the heavenly heaven, or the highest.
Right.
Deepest equals highest in a strange way in his language, and so they are these. Some of them are these most ancient people who just have this unbelievable love and selflessness
Right.
and everything. That's what they're all about.
So deepest love. And I know he also says like innocence, which he defines as like a willingness to be.
Right.
Oh, he says, right, the deepest angels are the closest united to the divine, even if they're.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they're the greatest peace,
Okay.
the
yeah.
joy, all those good things.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
We've got that in us.
And they're not part of the debate society. I mean, the scripture that we almost talked about earlier, where let your word be yes, yes, no, no. Anything more than these comes of evil.
Yes.
The idea that it's just a knowing.
Right.
Just is that, so God is this way. Yeah, that makes sense.
Interesting.
All right. Next one is August 3rd, page 85.
terms or expressions mostly trace the origin of their inner symbolism to the inner self, which mingles with spirits and angels. In every one of us, the spirit, or the actual person that survives the body's death, lives in community with angels and spirits, even though our outer self is unaware of it. Because our inner self lives in community with angels and spirits, along with them, it also has access to the universal language and therefore to the origins of words.
The word geek in me freaks out about that. That's so great.
And I think the examples he gives most commonly for this is that we'll say, I see, you have a good heart.
Yeah.
Right.
When you that's got nothing to do with cardiovascular health. We don't know your EKG. You have a good heart means you have love. You have good love, good, reputable love for people, because that's what it would mean spiritually. And I see means I understand, because that's what it would mean spiritually. So we pick up turns of phrase even from the nature of how the spiritual world works.
Yeah, and they've studied how language development happens, and the people who are coming up with a lot of the new terms are the children. It's so interesting that children are a fountain of these expressions. And Swedenborg says that children are more in touch with heaven. It can be a little more remote when you're going through adult life with all these concerns and cares. And so it's interesting to think about us all having access to this universal language. Somebody mentioned the other day, forget who said this to me, that if there were language problems in heaven, it's very helpful that all of heaven speaks the same language.
Yeah.
The language of thought, because that would be cacophony. You have so many angels up there. So having that same language makes a big difference.
It just makes me think of images, and because he's saying the inner symbolism, or the symbolism that exists in the inner self, and the way that, so I don't know how that exactly boils down to words, that comes out as terms and phrases, but just how images, and he says that that's true in the spiritual world, that that's part of this universal language is communicating through representations, and how powerful that is, and that it's universal. It's just, I don't know, it's just really interesting to me.
Yeah, it's made me wonder things. I wish I had better examples off the top of my head, but the things like, why would you say boots on the ground? Why specifically boots? Why specifically ground? You can see where it comes from, but there's these kind of things that get a resonance, and then everybody uses these expressions. Right. And yet without realizing, oh no, that's because of what a boot means, that's what ground means, and yes, it comes from the military or deployment.
It has an
or something
image,
like that.
yeah. There's an image associated with it.
Yes, heaven is behind that image in some sense.
Oh, so cool.
A form is more perfect as its constituents are distinguishably different, and yet still united in some particular way. In support of this, angels have cited the communities in the heavens. Taken all together, these communities make up the form of heaven. They've also cited the angels in each community, saying that the more clearly individual angels are on their own, are therefore free, and love the other members of their community on the basis of their own affection in apparent freedom, the more perfect is the form of the community.
That's a heck of a last sentence.
It reminds me of the one we were reading about, the human form, the divine humanity, how all connected that is, and that freedom, so that angels, that's the way it's meant to work. I feel like that's very counterintuitive to that sort of, wait, what about management or something? But that the more clearly individual angels are on their own and therefore free and love the other members on the basis of their own affection in apparent freedom, then everything's perfect.
Yeah.
It's a silly analogy, but it reminds me of the heist movies where you get these 10 or 11 different characters and each one has their own specialty. This person's really good at hacking alarm systems, and this person's really
good. Very heavenly.
It's very heavenly. You can see an image of heaven in those, and no wonder they're so popular, those movies.
Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
The image of heaven.
So there's two parts to this. The first part, we're talking about this form that's more perfect as its constituents are distinguishably different, but united in some particular way. might seem abstract, but I think, again, you point to the human body as the ultimate example of that, which is divine design. So human body, very much more diverse than a rock, but because of its diversity is able to do these amazing things that you can't do when you're mostly the same thing. And yeah, you actually want everything to be super specialized and so to have this really distinct form. But yet, homeostasis, everything in the body is going for homeostasis. That's the goal of everything is united there. But then there's this second part about the, is it individualism or is it collectivism?
Right.
Are you yourself in the afterlife, or do you go merge back into the light? And it sort of seems like both, but it actually works better the more everybody is themselves, but is on their own accord, totally devoted to the whole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Swedenborg talks about certain communities that he saw that for some reason really, I love this idea that he thought the people in those communities were so radically different from each other that he just, how are you even, this doesn't make sense. I don't get it. It's like those movies where you have some giant hulking bodybuilder bruiser guy and some little girl or something, and it's just the unlikely pairing or something. But when they love the same goal, then they love the fact that, you've got this and this other person has that attribute that they're all contributing. And to me, it does speak about good boundaries. Apologies for the analogy, but it's amazing how much, such horrible things can happen if boundaries are violated in your belly, let's say. If the contents of your stomach leak out into the cavity there or something, huge problem. That's like really, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, you do not want, let's all get along together. So
let's get rid of the membranes.
Yeah,
we all
let's
love each
all be
other.
one.
We
Let's
all
all
love
be
each
one.
other. Why would we have good fences?
We
make
are
good
one
neighbors.
exactly. We're one this way. Stomach acid stays in there.
Yes.
The blood goes all through here. Like it's true. It's like
we love what you do over there. That's not. I couldn't take it. I can't take the environment that you guys have over there. That highly acidic content.
But this is why we haven't figured out life yet. If it was just like, some people just say it's just love. It's just so simply love. It's just But if the answer can't be that simple, because we would have gotten it.
Yes.
That there's a way to love.
Right.
And it's not. You just like you'll have some, like festival or something where it's like, the idea is let's just all hug each other, and that works for some people. Doesn't other people? That's their worst nightmare, and it solves some problems and makes some problems worse. That's why you don't get, if you like, people go into a compound, they're like, this is going to be just free love. It ends up with all kinds of problems. So there's something more. There's a divine design, and how you love is understanding. That's why in the beginning we're saying the angels, they excel in the knowledge of, well, how do we love each other effectively?
Yeah. Yes. Right.
Where do I fit in with this? And it's a precision thing. That's why it's hard. That's why we haven't quite got it yet.
It's like that old saying, there are two kinds of people who think there are two kinds of people, and people who realize, no, there's an unlimited variety of different kinds of people.
And I think what is that like science of love? And it's this critical piece about being in relationship, like that you have, because people think, okay, love is just this uniting force. That's what Swedenborg says. So let's all just have this big hug where we all just meld into one thing and there's no distinction between each other or something like that. But love has to happen between two very distinct entities that are very unique, very individual, and then are having this like reciprocity of, who are you? How are you different from me? But I want to be in connection with you. And, that's the magic of,
didn't it say distinguishably different? Was that the phrase? Distinguishably different. Is that to me, I think there is an idea that the way to be a happy couple is to just
merge,
do the same things, like the same things, just in lockstep all the time or something like that. This sort of said, no, distinguishably different. The unique you that you are is what the relationship needs.
Yes.
And the other person being the unique them and not just sort of adapting or one kind of overpowering the other. That's how you get to that more perfect form.
Yeah, and that, what you were both describing, holds up even when God is involved. So sure, there can be, what we're talking really about is the union that comes from love. So God loves everybody. That's like one of the central maxims of the existence. However, we don't all have this union with God. You don't feel like you don't have the heaven that God wants to give you. Even though the love is there, there's all this stuff that's got to happen. It's all this that you have to, I mean, the way Swedenborg describes it, we have to open up to that. And there's various ways, because it turns out certain kinds of attitudes we have towards other people or beliefs, those are not compatible with that. So we have to do this whole thing where we act a certain way, we become similar. There's just all this complexity to it. It's just like with any person and any relationship and any structure, there's always stuff to learn about how to make that. It's like businesses don't just automatically, everyone gets along and the things relate to each other well.
Yeah.
You mentioned marriages. Yeah, there's all this study about, you can't just do it. Even friendships, and there's everything. You can learn more and more about how it works, and that makes it work better and better. And so many times, parenting. You just, there's so much you can learn about the basic things you're not doing right, and even thinking. We were talking in the beginning about how there you have these thinking errors and you have these patterns, and there's a lot of stuff. Wow, I never even realized that I think like that in the first place. Yeah, there's always this. You get the structure. It's like you want to talk to your grandkids over Zoom. That's the love. But to talk to them over Zoom, you got to understand how to work your iPad. You got to know how to do the Wi-Fi. They got to be signed on. There's all this connecting to make that love possible.
And just talking about your health problems doesn't make a very interesting conversation.
Have you seen those little videos of like toddlers who have been hanging out with their grandpas over the weekend, and when the toddler gets out of the chair, he goes,
imitating.
He just thought like that's the noise you make when you get out of the chair now.
Yeah, and Swedenborg says this. This quote was about communities, but just that same principle does apply to angels and their connection with the divine. That the more closely united they are to the divine, the more distinctly they feel like themselves. And so I just love that point that the vessel that you are, the unique vessel that you are really matters, and that gets to be in relationship with the divine and with everybody else. And I think it's a pretty great system.
And Swedenborg talks about these angels that always kind of baffled and amazed me, but I love it in a way that he talks about communities and communities, some huge communities, some smaller communities in heaven, but then he talks about these best angels, he says, who dwell apart. And yet they have a connection with all of heaven. Mm-hmm. So I think it'd be cool to just see angels they're just unlike anybody you've ever met.
Yes.
They're not, oh, you're one of these or you're one of those. I get
right.
No, I've never seen anybody like you. Yeah.
And it's not just
that's very cool.
It's not just like frivolous diversity or everyone's who they are, just because it's like the more you have different people united in the same cause, the more effective the mechanism is, the more complex the tasks you can do. Like we already established that's the rule.
Yeah.
So it's like it's nice, it feels comforting to say, and it's practical, and there's utility in it, and so it's like the love and the truth at the same time.
Definitely. I feel like that connects to art, just why art works, having different things that make a whole. Anyway, it's just inspiring, cool thoughts there.
Nice.
So this is November 18th. Because angels love the Lord and share in that love with others, they possess all truth. As a result, they possess all wisdom and understanding, covering not only heavenly and spiritual subjects, but also rational and earthly ones. Love puts angels at the actual origins or source of these things. That is, it makes angels aware of purposes and causes. Love does this because the Lord does it. To see a thing in terms of its origins or in terms of its purposes and causes is to look from heaven at everything below, even on earth.
I absolutely love that. Isn't that great? for some reason, I had this image in my mind when I was younger of sort of a guru up on a mountain, who's full of this great wisdom. And then you said, well, where's a good place to get your car fixed? And then, I have no idea. I don't deal in that.
Is that how he talks?
They all talk that way. They all
That's
sound
true.
like that. So sorry.
We're all from New York.
Yeah, right.
Bada bing, we're all one.
I love the fact that it comes down into this rational and earthly wisdom, and just that idea.
Yeah.
Isn't that what you want when you're pursuing wisdom? Like you want to, what is behind all this?
Yeah.
What is the point? What's the cause of all this suffering? What's this cause of, chaos or violence? Or what's going on behind there? So being able to see at that level, and then be able to see the earthly thing that comes down from that, like to see all of it, because you're at that root level. It's like in a computer, right? There are certain things that happen at the highest level, that root level. I don't know. I find that inspiring.
Yeah, and there's something cool about the connection of all of those levels together, like to be aware of purpose, but then to get to be acting on the outermost level. There's a certain kind of joy that happens there, that has that, because then even you're doing something small like helping a kid tie their shoes or something like that, but when you have this sense of the purpose, just like a ton of joy can come through too, once you can open yourself to that. That's super cool.
So he kind of alludes to it here, but makes the claim elsewhere, Swedenborg does, that you can see confirmation of all of these spiritual truths in the existence of God and all that in the physical world if you know what you're looking for. And I remember once I was driving in the car and I was looking at the inside of my dashboard and things, and I was like, well, this doesn't seem to really indicate the existence of God. It's a very secular, modern thing, this car. But I did suddenly just have this switch flip of insight. They're like, well, just look at the stuff in front of you. What's it all doing? And you're just like, oh, this is all this stuff in this car is like an act of kindness toward me.
Yeah.
This little thing here is telling me how fast I'm going.
Yeah,
It's the
right.
speedometer so that I know not to go too fast. This over here, this will make, if I'm too hot, this will make me, that it's all useful. It's like usefulness incarnate. And so you can, of course, that's how people made it, but that's God coming through people. So the fact that you just have it end up that there's this thing that is so useful, trying to be so helpful toward the happiness of a human being. That does show the presence of God, just in a different way than you see when you see a tree or something. You get this different feeling, but that if you, and it just struck me, like you're looking from purposes. So the plastic turn signal knob does not inspire, like it's not Grand Canyon level, like, oh, you can see something spiritual in there. But if you think of what's the purpose of it, that is to make it so that the people behind you and in front of you are safe.
Yeah.
Then that is a very divine thing.
Yeah,
And I see it also respecting your freedom, like it understands. We don't know you, dear driver. We don't know who's going to buy this car. We don't know who's going to be driving it. Are you going to be tall or short or whatever? So, but this thing will be adjustable, and these this will work this way, and yeah.
I guess the Swedenborg also, he talks about that too, of like examining things for their intentions. This also becomes a kind of a how-to of reflecting on the purpose of something, and then again being able to sort of tell the difference between what's of love or what's not, what's useful, what's not, what's heavenly or hellish or whatever. So that's an interesting exercise.
Let's move to our last angel fact of the show.
All right. I think that's December 16th. Because the upright, when they go to the next life, at first return to the life they had in this world, and so to what they loved and relished during that life, they cannot associate with angels yet, not even in their breathing. First, they have to be prepared. In the course of preparation, they are introduced to angelic life through synchronized breathing, during which they come to enjoy inner perceptions and heavenly freedom. This usually happens in company or in choruses, in which each individual resembles the next in respiration, perception, and freedom of action. I was shown how this was done, again, through firsthand experience. I just think that's so cool. It's so funny and interesting. Because, like, what comes to my mind when I hear this passage is, like, it feels very, or it brings to mind, like, yoga retreats or other kinds of retreats or any kind of that sort of space where you all sit together and you first start by, you know, you do take some intentional deep breaths. You know, everybody breathes together, or you say Om or something like that. And that creates this connection. But then also this whole idea of being in company or in choruses, and you're resembling the next in all of these different things, respiration, perception, freedom of action. It feels almost like dancing together or something, like in the way that if you, like, we're going to say, okay, I'm going to embody or express some heavenly state of being, right? In my body. And now you do it, you know? And like, and now follow me, you know? Okay, now we're going to go like this. And we're going to, you know, it's such an interesting way to bring everybody into a similar state. And Swedenborg is saying, even just on the level of breathing, this is happening in heaven. This is how people get introduced into enjoying inner perceptions and heavenly freedom.
It really made me think of a couple of different things. One, it was interesting that said that after people die, they first go to the things that they love, that they relish. Did it say the things that lit them up, which makes so much sense. You know, the other world is so much about love and your passions and so on. And yet those things are not necessarily ready for prime time. You know, the things that you enjoy may not have that angelic quality to them. And it made me think about how just when you're surfing the web or doing whatever, you know, I notice how my breathing will change. Like different topics will affect my breathing in different ways depending on what the content is. You know, like your breathing does, it does relate to, I love that, this is exciting, or I don't, you know, yeah, I don't like that, and yeah, interesting. And so actually doing breathing exercises after death to try to be ready for heaven.
Yeah, and that it associates you with angels, so that because they can't associate with angels yet, not even in their breathing, when they're focused on what they, you know, relish during life or something that isn't
and then they get these perceptions.
Yeah.
So I hadn't noticed that element before, but when they're all breathing together, I just realized how this works, you know, or something. I don't know, get some great insight from all the oxygen they're taking in or whatever it is.
More awareness, and like, because I think there must have been studies that have been done about this, but I don't know, similar to like the brain scans or whatever, is like obviously, because people are often interested in what's the somatic relationship of like to thoughts and feelings. So if you're in a extreme state of anxiety, what's going on with your heart rate, what's going on with your breathing, whatever. Right. But then the inverse is if you're in a state of peacefulness, of calm, or of joy, what is going on with your breathing and your heart rate. And just to know that those are indicators then means that you can intentionally, you know, adopt calm breathing, or, you know, and then that's going to influence your perception. I just feel like even though Swedenborg's saying this is going on for people when they go to the next life, I feel like it's definitely happening right here as well. Just like he got firsthand experience, I feel like we can get firsthand experience of this too. And, you know, actually with this whole episode, right? Like, associate with angels. These are these mind-blowing facts about angels, but they're right here and you can be associated with them right now. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think I figured something out. So we had an early theme in this show, which kind of carried throughout, which is that one thing that's so fascinating about the world that Swedenborg describes observing is that it's this confluence of all these different things. We talked about the structure of the human body. We talked about thinking and the sort of anxiety challenges people go through. We talked about religion, Christianity. We talked about the Bible. We talked about all these tuning forks, all these different things, right? There's a confluence of that. There's circles that you'll go into, like I'll go talk to someone on their show or something where they're interested in Swedenborg, but not so interested in Christianity. And so there's like this, wow, he's so Christian in all these parts, but it's just funny. Like this is like so hippy dippy stuff. Like I could imagine some corporate retreat where you have to do what he's describing there. And the executive in the suit is like, what are we doing? So, but yet Swedenborg, who's like in some ways very buttoned up, and he's talking about Jesus Christ is the Lord. And you got it. But he's also saying, oh yeah, and in this heaven where the Lord is the ruler of heaven and all this, the way you get to know each other is you do these like breathing things and these moving things. Yes. And I was like, so what is that? And I think what it is it's the confluence of many diverse ways of being going toward a single goal. So you have all these different disciplines and things in life, and not every community is going to do all this stuff. People have their own communities, but in general, what he describes is a reality where God brings the goodness of many different things, many different religions, many different attitudes, and to bear on the singular goal of heaven from the human race. And so that's why you get this satisfying spread of, the purpose for which we're doing everything matches what you see in the world with all this variety of what's going on here. That's satisfying to me.
Yes.
That's really, really good. And that sense through so many of the quotes that we heard about freedom. So it's not coercion. I've been thinking a lot about Swedenborg's word consent and how crucial that is in relationships, and how much people don't want to do consent. They want to bully each other or force or enslave people or try to get them to do their will. The idea that all these people are freely pulling together toward the same goal. It's so fun to be a part. Honestly, being part of the New Century Edition team, there's very much of that feeling. There's very different characters. We're scattered all over the place, and yet we have a goal, and we're absolutely committed to that. It's so fun to work with people who are committed to the same goal, and when somebody figures out a way, I think we can do this a little faster if we do it this way. I think we can do it better if we do it this. Great. Everybody rejoices. Like, that's awesome, because we're all going toward the same goal.
And that's another thing we've tied in several times here is the way that businesses operate. And I think that there's a movement in business knowledge of trying to get everyone to be more different. So you take these self-assessments that are getting popular, where you try to hone in on what are you good at,
what makes
and
you
what
tick?
are you, and what do you love, and what are you not good. I took one called the Working Genius Assessment, where you say these are the things I are really good at and I love, these I'm okay at and I kind of like, these I hate and I got. So they found out, your company will work better if you get everyone who could kind of do similar things, but you find out actually you can do this, you can do that, specialize, and then we form teams made of those. That actually makes it better. So get more different. Get more specialized. You go take this training. No, you don't need to take the same training. You take this training over here, because that makes it work better.
Yeah, and that's like Swedenborg. His main thing that I don't know if we've quite said it in this show yet or not is that each one of us are designed to be an angel. Like, we are an angel.
Oh, did we not mention
in
that?
training? And
these are facts about you eventually.
Yes, exactly. And so like that same be distinct, be unique, be like, know what you are, what you love. That is you being this angel that gets to be a part of that whole. Yeah.
If everybody was all the same, what would be the basis of the love? It would be kind of a self-centered, I see that you're just like me, and I think I'm really fantastic. So, I like you too.
Right.
Surely, when I picture these heavenly communities, isn't the thing that you love? It's like I couldn't even imagine doing what you do. I don't know what you just did there, but that was amazing. Isn't that part of the love?
And I guess if that's the purpose, that can change how you see life. If that's the purpose, like you're saying, to become an angel, a useful angel that is like what we've described here, that's the point of life. That's why life is the way it is instead of something different.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of times the answer of why we go through difficulties, is because the point of life is for you to become this particular kind of useful person in the way that you can be it. So that is like the ultimate seeing life from purpose. And then you start to see the hand of God in it, because you're like, oh, that's what this whole thing is going toward. It's like a bunch of people who are really motivated to do what's right and really have the skills and different ways to do what's right. That's cool. That's a cool kind of way to organize all these facts in your mind, is they're all pointing toward, how do I contribute to this, the big goal of an angelic heaven from the human race.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just the truth that I read this every day, every single day I read. In fact, what my wife and I have taken to doing is that we'll read yesterday's and today's, because we want to hear yesterday's again. Yeah. Because it's not enough to just hear it once. You want to hear it again. So we do yesterday, we do today, and then we work our way through that one.
Yeah, so...
And on my, I forget when this came out, but we're on there.
Like a second
we're
round
looping
through,
through the
right,
second time
right,
through.
That's right.
Oh yeah, it doesn't finish in 1 year.
Right.
All proceeds benefit from the non-for-profit Swedenborg Foundation. It was Chelsea and her team that put this thing together. It's a thing of beauty. You can go to a link in the description, grab this book, and then be on this journey every day. Thanks so much, both of you, for talking this through with me. It's got me revved up to like go try to do the angelic life thing.
I know, this is really wonderful. So fun.
It was actually heavenly.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, everybody.